hope you guys are doing great. So, welcome to our podcast called CL Squared Podcast. And today is our very first episode. I am so excited to finally begin this journey that we planned ever since like a lot of months ago. And yeah, so today we have a very special guest. That's our first guest, and she will be talking to us about immigration. And yeah, I'll let her introduce herself to you guys.
Thank you, Mims. My name is Arceli Kirkhoven. My friends used to call me Shay.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a licensed Canadian immigration consultant and I represent clients to the Canadian government.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you.
So I can call you Shay, right? Shay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect, Shay. So, how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing the immigration section many years. Actually, it started way back when I got married to a Canadian citizen,
Mm-hmm.
and we're doing the sponsorship
Mm-hmm.
for spousal, and we started doing it. We did our research, and then it took us many nights, many
Mm-hmm.
years. I mean, not years, but many months actually to prepare everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided like, hey, this is very time consuming. Why don't
Mm-hmm.
we just hire someone who does that
Yeah.
professionally?
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, oops, it's very expensive,
Yeah.
and so ultimately we did it. By ourselves. Mainly
Mm-hmm.
my husband did it, and
Yeah.
I'm just the support.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think 2 years later, I received a lot of, like family and friends, especially
Mm-hmm.
friends that, hey, how can I get to Canada? Can you help me? And I got an opportunity. I met someone who's
Mm-hmm.
doing the immigration and offering jobs and for nurses.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to help my family member and paid a huge amount of money to this consultant.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that consultant was a ghost consultant. It
Mm-hmm.
means she never had a formal education nor a license to
Mm-hmm.
practice under Canadian immigration,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore totally the money just got wasted. So
Mm-hmm.
and then, moving forward, a lot of people are coming and saying that they I got scammed for the same person. Like, and we lost a lot of money. We lost our
Yeah.
house. It's very bad. And there, over time, I was like, maybe I can do this,
Mm-hmm.
And so I took a course and studied immigration law, completed the program, and took the exam and passed. And then that's how it started.
You have been doing this for 10 years. And do you have like any information that you provide to people, like whenever people want to get in contact with you? Like, do you have any social media or website where we can
Yeah.
find you?
All right. So first of all, the services that we're offering are basically all the Canadian immigration that
Mm-hmm.
can be offered, including but not limited to permanent residency
Mm-hmm.
under federal skilled worker program.
Yeah.
And then we do have the provincial nomination as well. The most popular one is the temporary foreign worker, and the temporary resident visa. International study program is one of the biggest hit for the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are the services that we are offering in our office.
Mm-hmm.
So as a consultant, I represent client directly to the Canadian government. So that
Mm-hmm.
is, it's not being represented as an agency or as a business.
Mm-hmm.
But our office is located in Montreal,
In Montreal.
and I do have my own Facebook page
Mm-hmm.
as well as LinkedIn profile and Instagram.
Oh, okay. No, that's really interesting. And so right now, do you have any big companies that you're working
Working
with?
with. Yes, I do. Unfortunately, that's the thing that we cannot disclose with. But yeah, we do have a lot of clients and employers as well
Mm-hmm.
in the food industry, factory and construction company,
Mm-hmm.
and farming industry as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, we're branching out to different sectors of employment,
Mm-hmm.
since now everybody's interested to find an employment what they so call it LMIA in
Mm-hmm.
Canada,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where we're expanding the business.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's really great. Are there any factors or elements that people need to know when they are looking for like companies to help them come like immigrate to Canada? Are there any specific details that they need to know while they're doing that?
Yeah, as you can see or hear, a lot of sad news about getting employed or getting a job offer, and then at the end they found out that the job offer is not legitimate.
Mm,
There are a lot of people who get scammed and
yeah.
paid huge amount of money.
Mm,
They spent $10,000, $25,000 in
mm-hmm.
Tolemia, and everybody wants to pay because they've been promised
Mm-hmm.
that, hey, you have a job when you come here. But before even giving your money, you have to make sure that the company is legitimate. You can easily access that
Mm-hmm.
online, if the company is legitimate. And how would you know if the job offer is legitimate?
Mm-hmm.
If especially if you're not being interviewed, you just basically the agency or the consultant give you the, hey,
Mm-hmm.
this is your job offer, we will
Mm-hmm.
process now your work permit. But you haven't been in touch with any of the employer's representative or the
Mm-hmm.
HR department
Mm-hmm.
before you even sign anything or pay anything. Why don't you simply first contact the company itself and make sure that, hey, are you offering this kind of job? Cause,
Mm-hmm.
or do you know this consultant?
Mm-hmm.
Is she or he related to you?
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing you would need to do. Do your own due diligence,
Yeah.
because once your money is gone, that's it. You cannot get it back.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, there are so many companies or people who've been doing this, sadly.
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing. Make sure that the company is legitimate. And then if you're not being interviewed or even you haven't shared your resume, and
Resume. Mm-hmm.
suddenly you have the job offer and say that, hey, in few days we will submit your application to
Yeah.
the Canadian government, that's not the right one.
Yeah.
Because for you to be able to submit your application first
Mm-hmm.
is you need to provide documents,
Mm-hmm.
your passport copy,
Mm-hmm.
birth certificate or marriage certificate, your
Mm-hmm.
transcript records, diploma, your certificate of employment. How would you even know you qualify for that position
True.
if you haven't shared anything? You just fill out some forms and that's
Yeah.
it. That's not how it works.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of people, whenever you want, you hear about this opportunity, you can come to Canada, because a lot of people talk. So they're like, oh, you can do this and easily come to Canada. You can apply to this job application. Of course, they're ready to do all of that. They're ready to apply and go through it, and they think that it's the right way because they don't have enough information. So if I understand very well, they need to have an interview by the employer. They need to submit their resume and know if they're qualified or not before saying that they have a company. So
Exactly.
that's the right
Yes.
way to do the
Yes.
process and to
Yes.
know that it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's really good. It's sad that a lot of people do that. Recently, I've been hearing a lot of stories about Facebook scammers. People who say, I can bring you to Canada, give me $10,000 and I'll bring you. It's really sad that this happens.
No, that's not how it works. And they said, like, even for permanent residency, like, hey, in 6 months you get your permanent residency.
Yeah.
Uh, no.
No.
Probably if you get the 6 months process will only start once you get an ITA or the invitation to apply for permanent residency.
Mm-hmm.
But prior of getting that, the process may take even a year for you to collect all your requirements,
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's not how easy to
Mm.
get that permanent residency, nor the temporary visa, nor the work permit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long process and
Yeah.
it's a step by step process. And be mindful also, like when you are let's say you did the interview, you got a job offer, you
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you understand the process as well,
Mm-hmm.
because the more you know, the better, because then all this information, you can find them at the official website of the Canadian government, which is the Canada.ca. There, but of course, not all informations are there. Like every details are not there. But it's good to know the basic information, like YouTube now, you can find a lot of free information as well. But it's better to get a second opinion, perhaps. And the best way for you to get those real information, correct information, is to seek a legal advice from a consultant, like a licensed consultant who studied and become a licensed or regulated Canadian immigration consultant for Canada.
And as a consultant, like, how do you keep updated with all the changes with immigration? Like, they have a lot of new policies, new laws. How do you keep like updated?
Oh, well, the Canadian government, they have very good, strong, technical support, and they send not only to consultants, but they post everything online, and you just have to register or subscribe to their website and
Oh,
to
true.
their to their website, and you get a daily updates from what's happening, because the law keeps changing, and sometimes if you're not updated, it's also difficult, because one policy may be applicable to this period of time, but then in few weeks, it might change. So that will really change the whole
Yeah.
application. So it's also better, like, you discuss that to your, like, for me as a consultant, it's always better to have that update regularly sent to your clients.
So you need to be subscribed to the Canadian immigration because
Yes,
you need to know
yes.
all those
Yeah.
updates, or you're just gonna be doing something but you're not aware of.
Yes.
You
Well,
know.
the good news is that you can find everything online.
Yeah.
Even there are a lot of different third-party websites that does Canadian immigration information. They are there's a lot of information, as I've said, but you have to make sure that you are following the one that you believe that, connected, not connected, but truthful.
Yeah.
And they just like simply passing information. So for us as consultant, it's always better to go straight to the regulation, basically the Canadian website. Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. And for you guys, what are the services that you give? Because I know there's a lot when it comes to immigration. So what are the services that your company gives?
Like for me, I tend to become so personalized depending on what kind of applications we're doing.
Okay.
For example, since we have discussed already the work permit, so what we do is, once the interview is done, the job offer is signed, and then signing of the contract, what is the contract pertains, and then the process of LMIA, the step by step, and then the work permit. Once the whole process is done and completed, and the visa is approved, then we help the candidate or the applicant integrate to the Canadian society. So when they come here, if it's possible, if they're in Quebec or they're traveling to Gatineau, for example, we pick them up from the airport, meet them
Oh.
there, and then we help them get their SIN number, like
That's
how
really
to
good.
open a bank account, and then we inform them about the public transportation, how to get their provincial health card, and yeah, basically, and then if depending what kind of nationality that person, so if it's Filipino, we introduce them to Filipino communities.
Oh,
Yes.
that's really nice. So you help them just welcome them warmly in Canada,
Yes,
and
yes.
you also help them, like, let's say they need to find housing, a place
Yes,
to
that's
live,
correct.
you know.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's really
Yeah,
good.
and it doesn't only ends there. Like
More than
for
that.
me, what I do, it's not a short-term relationship. It's a long-term relationship for me and for the client. Because once the client is in Canada, they do have families. They have
Sure.
wives or spouses. They have children. So then I offer them information like, hey, there's a possibility that you can bring your family with you here. So then I explain that to them as well. If they have parents, siblings who would like to come and visit and see Canada, we can do that as well under temporary resident visa.
Yeah.
And then, of course, once they have gained their Canadian experience, work experience, they will be eligible for the Canadian experience class for permanent residency. Or I offer different permanent residency pathway for them, which they might be eligible as well.
Wow.
So until they become citizen, the
They're
relationship will still remain open.
yeah, and it's also a great way to create relationships, because in life,
Yes.
whenever you have good relationships and also whenever you have talents to give, it's really good to do that. I love what you're
Yeah,
doing.
yes. It's good to know also that, like I become friends with my clients, and that's a good feeling, like you cannot easily find friends, real friends in this
Yeah.
world, and when they trust you with their future, that's the beginning of a good journey.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
No, that's really good. And yeah, speaking of trust, how do you make sure, well, not really make sure, what are your processes for someone to trust you? Because I know there's a lot of people trying to help. They act like they're helping, but they're already getting something from there. They just want to do it for the money.
Right.
But how do you make sure like the person is able to trust you, and you keep on like with the process?
Yeah, first of all, I have to make sure that, that person who approached me is eligible to a program. I will not take you as a client if I know that I will know the moment I see your resume, the moment I see your credentials, school credentials, I will know if you have a chance or no. If I see that you can't qualify in this position or in this program, I will tell you straight. Look, no. I will not do it.
Yeah.
I will not touch it.
Yeah.
I don't want you to spend money, and I don't want to give you false hope. That's the thing. False hope is very dangerous,
Yeah.
and so you make sure that you tell. I always explain to clients or potential clients the advantages and disadvantages of taking this program,
Yeah.
and then it's up to them to decide. Okay, I'm willing to take that risk, so it's up to them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like you have a lot of cases to handle, a lot of files and different people coming from different countries. How do you handle all the patience with the client, or even how do you help them also stay patient
Yeah,
in this case?
I think I'm not I think I have handled about um thousands of clients.
Yeah.
mm, but each clients are different regardless of their nationality or citizenship, or race. um, each candidate is different.
Yeah.
Each file is different.
Yeah.
They're all unique. They have unique backgrounds, and you treat them differently as well. There are some clients who are difficult, demanding, and there are some clients easygoing, but in both ways you treat them with respect, you treat them with fairness and transparency. You want to gain that trust, not only, hey, I'm paying you, you're my client, you're a consultant. That's basically it, right? But ultimately, my goal is for you to be successful in your immigration journey and in your life here in Canada. That's how I see this work. Like it's not just a work for me. It's like about sharing what I have learned through my journey in the Canadian immigration.
Yeah. Oh wow. No, that's really really interesting. So right now you said you're working with big clients. So do you have like an approximate number of how many people you are bringing, or with your company for sure, how many people you're bringing, and how is the process going?
Yes. Well, we can say that when we get clients, basically we have this one big company who asked for 50 to 100 job orders, and but as I've said, each application is unique, you know. You cannot just submit the whole 100 files
Yeah.
in one application, you know. So it's a step by step process, and yeah, just for that numbers, you can work on that numbers for a year, just for that specific employer. And but it's, you know, it's overwhelming yet satisfying,
Yeah.
because we're seeing results now with that order. And yeah, results meaning approvals,
Yeah.
like visa approvals.
Yeah.
And we're now in in the process of getting their air tickets and getting their apartments here in Canada. So yeah.
So how long does it take to bring someone here? I know you said you also work with work permits. Like if someone wants to come here and work or study, depending on what their situation is, after
Yeah.
the process has been started, like the application, how long does it take for them to come here?
Right. So, well, depending on the application itself, right? So, for example, if you're coming here as a student, we always give the student like, hey, once all your documents are ready, then give yourself 6 months to wait until your study permit, you know, is approved. Because the Canadian government just passed not a law but a policy where they would require the schools to provide an attestation. That's a new one in 2024, and that will require, you know, few weeks for the school to provide that as well. Like in Quebec, apart from that attestation, you still need to get the CAQ, the Quebec Acceptance certification
Yeah.
to become a student. And even for workers in Quebec, it's the same thing. So let's say we have okay, since a lot of people are interested for work permit, let's say the work permit it's under LMIA support application. So LMIA is a labor market impact assessment where the Canadian government assess the employer if they are capable of financially sustain or pay the candidates or the employee's salary for the period of time of the duration of the contract. So it could be 1 year, 2 years, or maximum 3 years of contract. The LMIA process is about, it's 2 months. Normally, it's, they said in their website, you see it's like about 31 days. But with all the applications that they are receiving,
Yeah.
you know, delays are expected, so it can be 2 to 3 months process. Once that is processed and approved, then you move forward to your work permit application, and that also, and depending on the country where you are applying for. So we have recently got like approvals from Congo, and yeah, you know the process. You will see it's like 8 weeks, but in 2 weeks they receive their approval. So we're now preparing for their. They already have the flight. They're coming on the 26th of May.
Wow.
And yeah, so we're now arranging the you know their entrance here, so the pre-arrival.
Wow, that's really, really good.
Yeah.
It's interesting to know this. So whenever the process has been made, you just confirm to them and they buy their tickets. They take care of that, right? They buy their tickets and
Yes.
then you
Okay.
take care of everything else.
Right. Right. So now the LMIA application is basically work permit. Is the Canadian government is mandating all the employers to pay all the processing fee,
Okay.
including air tickets,
Okay.
and that's the, you know, the people who would like to come here as workers, they should know. But of course, if you're coming as, let's say, international students or on permanent residence visa, then of course it's at your own proof of funds.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
that's also very good because, you know, they're ready to do anything to come here, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I would do the same, you know. I would be ready to also pay what I need to pay. But okay, so speaking of housing, right now there's a lot of news about housing. Everything is pricey. A lot of people losing their contracts. The government is losing a lot of their employees.
Mm.
How are you guys still handling that? You're still bringing immigrants, you know?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's a huge topic that's happening right now. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
still ongoing. We do have, yeah, we acknowledge that Canada is experiencing a huge housing crisis right now,
Mm-hmm.
and they can already feel it. Some provinces already feel it, especially Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the Canadian government or the Canadian immigration is currently dealing with, and they're doing their best to, to provide a secure accommodation for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Apart, unfortunately, it's the housing section has been not compromised but exhaust.
Yeah.
The resources due to the fact that there's a huge number of international students who influxed in Canada. They just
Yeah.
came here,
Yeah.
and without realizing that, hey, they need to balance it out. So that
Mm-hmm.
right now the Canadian government or immigration, what they did is they put a cap in each for international students,
Mm-hmm.
and not everybody now can bring their families with them. It used to be, you get a 1 year program, you
Mm-hmm.
can bring your spouse and your children with you.
Mm-hmm.
Your spouse will be given an open work permit, your children a free education.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good marketing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good opportunity for everyone who has
Mm-hmm.
family, especially young kids,
Yeah.
to bring their family here and study 1 year program, and
Mm-hmm.
voila, you have the whole family with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the case anymore. They have restricted a few programs only that will allow uh, families to be together. If
Mm-hmm.
you're taking a regular program, a 2 year program, unfortunately, you cannot bring your spouses with you or children unless
Mm-hmm.
you're taking a master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. But the good news is that the Canadian government is slowly, putting everything on track. But of course, well, they said the damage has been done, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we can feel it, but at least the Canadian government is doing their best to slowly fix it
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that they can accommodate the future immigrants coming here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've heard a lot of people who say they have been through like companies, Canadian immigration companies that wanted to bring them here, and they did all that process, but then at the end of the process, they got rejected. The CAQ, which is the Quebec
Yeah,
certificate,
right,
right?
right.
And when this happens, I personally, I'll be like so disappointed if I was like, back then I'm waiting for it. What happens in this situation where like they go through everything with you and then something happens in
All
the
right.
future? Like,
Yes.
do they get a refund? Do they get another program, or
Mm-hmm.
do you suggest something else that they can apply to?
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that's basically that's life, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you cannot 100% assure the candidate to get their approval
Mm-hmm.
done.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases, of course, the decision is ultimately depending on the visa officer who's assessing that application.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, from the beginning
Mm-hmm.
of the application itself, it is our responsibility as a consultant to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that the client is eligible for that application. For
Mm-hmm.
example, as applying for a work permit, if they are applying for a specific position, would they be able to meet that qualification?
Mm-hmm.
If you're, let's say, you are applying for a cook and you never cook in your life, right?
Yeah.
So how do you convince the visa officer that, hey, I am qualified for this job?
Mm-hmm.
So no, you have to make sure that you have supporting documents pertaining to that position.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing before you even paying for
Before
your
going far,
yeah,
okay.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then but of course, things can go wrong
Yeah.
if everything is done correctly, you're
Mm-hmm.
eligible and everything, it's been assessed
Mm-hmm.
and then correctly the application is submitted, but still you get refused. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
It happens, and um, what can you explain to the applicant? Hey, it's refused, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a system where you can check the officer's mind. So when you receive a refusal letter, it's a generic refusal letter. So what you do is apply for an ATIP notes. ATIP notes is basically an access to information where the officer wrote the detailed explanation why they refused that file. So you can request that notes, and once you get that notes, you check what really went wrong. Then, once you acknowledge that and you know that if you are able to match that issue, you, then you can appeal. Appeal means either you appeal or you reapply. I would suggest apply because appeal it will take longer and it's more expensive. So go for reapplication. So resubmit the whole application. But this time you have to acknowledge the refusal letter with supporting documents.
Wow.
And then at least on that, at least you know that there's now chance because that issue has been acknowledged and recognized.
So Shay, you're telling me that whenever any situation, bad situations can happen in life, you know, but whenever any situation like this happens where something goes wrong in during your process, there is still another option to do with also the
Yes.
appeal or
Or
the
reapplication.
reapplication, and you also provide detailed explanation why the person was rejected.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's easier for them to redo it. Is there like any time that they have to redo
No,
it, or
they
it's
can reapply as soon as they know what to provide supporting documents in that issue or concern.
wow, that's really interesting. I didn't know that.
You
It's
can,
good to know because
yeah.
you know some people you can just apply, something happens, you just give up, you
Yeah,
know?
so they thought that hey, there's no more chance, right?
Yeah.
Even have clients who like they couldn't get the permanent residency for skilled workers. So we offer different options. Because like for the last few years, Canada is they opened the border for visitor visa, and I would suggest my clients like, hey, why don't you apply for visit visa and come here? Check the Canadian, if you have the means, check the market here. Perhaps you can find employer who's willing to
Yeah.
give you a work permit, right? And they do, and then we process their visit visa. They get the approval. They come here and they get the job offer, and we process the work permit inside Canada. And now they can pursue the permanent residency inside Canada while working. So there are other options if the first application, didn't go through or was refused, and you think it's
It's
difficult to
done.
reapply, then opt for another option. There are some cases that people are scared to do the reapplication because there was a refusal.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a refusal as long as you are willing to acknowledge that. And then for the second application, you make sure that you're prepared. A good letter of submission is done by your consultant, will help a lot.
Yeah, that's really, it's really good to know because some situations you just don't know what to do, right?
Yeah.
It's good to know this. Thank you for the information. Is there any age range that you guys have specifically for work permit or student permit?
No.
No?
That's the beauty about Canadian immigration.
Wow.
There's no specific age. As long as you qualify for the position or for the program that you're applying for, yes, you can.
You can do.
You can do I've seen international students who are 60 years old. They
Wow.
get their study permit rather, and they're studying here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. No, I love that so much, you
Yeah.
know, because most informations that we hear, we tend to look for information of any websites, and we get the wrong information, you know. That's why it's good to ask
Yeah.
you and have this immigration information.
It's good. Of course, going back to the age range, of course, let's say if you're applying for a work permit, I mean, if you're, let's say if you're 58 years old and you're applying as a service crew, it doesn't match, right? So depending on the position you are applying for, Canada is very generous when it comes to providing work permit, but of course they assess based on your ability to do your job as well. If it's a physical job, of course, you need to be healthy, strong, and capable to do that physical jobs. So that depending on the position you are applying for, yeah.
And also, if someone wants to apply for a certain job, do you also suggest them something else? Like depending on how you know them, because you interview them, you get to
Yeah.
know them before starting the
Yes,
applications, right?
yes. I have this experience just recently. The candidate, she's applying for a factory worker, and then when I saw the resume, she has an assistant teacher or teaching background, and I was like, would you like to consider, applying for an assistant teaching job here rather than factory, And then she said, am I allowed to do so? Of course, because based on your experience, you qualify for this. And then,
Yeah.
So, yeah, you give them options and then based on their credentials. Because I, for myself, like, what if that person get the job in the factory and then, oh my God, oh my,
Yeah,
how can I, how can I convince the officer now that, hey, give her the work permit, whereas her position is different, it says otherwise.
Yeah. And whenever someone is accepted with the employer, they do have a specific time that they have to work there. They have a contract, right? With the employers?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So this is very important. You have a contract, but it's 2 years contract. Your LMIA, the LMIA is valid. It used to be it's valid for 1 year. Now it went down to 6 months.
6 months.
So the difference between LMIA and work permit totally different. This is a new information. It's just recently modified by the Canadian government. So the LMIA, remember, the assessment is done through the employer's side, right? And so the LMIA can be changed. So meaning, let's say I apply under John's name, right? But then John's back out, or the employer suddenly doesn't want John to be hired, but they want to hire Paul instead of John. So, but the LMIA is named under John, right? Now the employer has 6 months to change John's name to Paul.
Oh.
So that's the LMIA.
Okay.
Some candidates, they freak out because they thought once the LMIA is done, they can only apply for 6 months, or the work permit is only valid for 6 months. No, LMIA is for employer, work permit is for employee. They are different. Now, moving forward to work permit. Let's say the candidate has a 2-year contract. The work permit is valid for 2 years. Thus, the employee is bound to that contract for 2 years. No. Yeah. And unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, Canadian government is is protecting the foreign worker, that they are, what if the employer is or the employee is experiencing negative things in the workforce.
Yeah.
Then they have the freedom to get out of that workplace. They will be protected by the employment labor law. Similar to employer, of course, if the employee doesn't do the job well, or if they did something against the company's policy, the employer has the right to terminate that contract.
Oh.
Yes.
And the person goes back to their country, or?
Of course, once the worker once the worker is let go, then automatically because the work permit and the work permit is attached to the employer.
True. Okay. Makes sense.
But if, let's say, the employee still has an active visa, they can still legally stay in Canada, and they can still find another employer for the sponsorship.
And
Yeah.
this is a rare case where, like, something happens and they have to go back to their countries. This happens rarely, right?
Rare but possible. Yeah,
Possible. Mm.
right. You can only get back to your country if you decide so.
Yeah, true. Because if you want to act right, you ask questions and,
Yeah.
ask for more research
Yes,
about it.
yes.
No, that's
Yeah.
really good.
Mm-mm.
So do you have any tips to give someone out there who wants to come to Canada as a student, but mostly as workers? Because I hear a lot of people want to come
As
just to work,
workers,
not
yeah.
to study. Do you have any tips to give them? How to look for the right contacts?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Yeah, well, you make sure that, well, you have to make sure you do your own research as well. But
Mm-hmm.
of course, there are a lot of free resources that you can find online, social
Mm-hmm.
media, YouTube. But your best resources here is straight from the Canadian government website,
Mm-hmm.
which is the Canada.ca. All the informations that you would need would be there.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, there is some tiny information that you would like to get through, but there's no information that you can find anywhere, or some
Mm-hmm.
some videos that have conflicting information.
Yeah.
It's better to get an advice from a licensed consultant or immigration lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that they are licensed or authorized to represent you or to give you an immigration advice.
Mm-hmm.
You can simply check their names in the Canadian website if they are authorized to give advice.
Yeah.
um, yeah, be mindful with, there are a lot of ghost consultants are the ones who have no formal education nor license to practice
Yeah.
in the Canadian immigration, and this is where bad news starts.
Yeah.
And some people, or some agency, they can even charge a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and don't fall into that. Just
Mm-hmm.
do your own diligence, and it's always better to approach someone who is authorized to give you advice on what to do
True.
next.
True.
Some people, like, they are afraid to get a proper consultation because they need to pay.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's I don't mi- I think I will invest in paying, let's say, $100 or $150
Yeah.
for a 1 hour consultation.
Mm-hmm.
At least all your questions, will
Yeah.
be answered.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, for me, if you come to me for, like, for me, personally, I don't charge consultation. So if you want to ask, can just approach me, and then I'll share what you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, I think $100 to $150 is a good investment
Mm-hmm.
for your future,
Yeah.
rather than paying $1,000, $10,000
Yeah.
to someone, like, and then your money is gone. So
Yeah. Okay, so before this, if I understand everything well, if someone wants to come as a worker here in Canada or a student, you need to first have your own research and also use the Canada.ca to do all those, just getting the information
yeah,
and
general
then getting in
information.
contact with Shay. Her LinkedIn, what's your
Yeah,
full LinkedIn?
well, my LinkedIn is Arceli Shaker Coven, and same
Perfect.
with my Facebook account. So you can
Mm-hmm.
message me there if you want, to get the free consultation.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Thank you so, so much, Shay. I do have a lot of questions that are going to come in and that I will personally have. And yeah, I hope we talk to the next episode.
I would love to. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, you can reach out on my social media platforms. Thank you
Mhm.
very much.
Thank you guys for watching and see you at the next episode. Goodbye.
Bye.